Imagine waking every morning knowing your body is slowly betraying you, your flesh dissolving, your nerves dying, your strength ebbing like sand slipping through fingers. Yet, despite this merciless decay, you are crowned king. Your enemies see a ruler who should be weak, broken, and forgotten, but instead you hold a sword, you lead armies, and you face death itself with unyielding defiance. This is not a story of myth or fantasy. This is the tragic truth of Baldwin IV, King of Jerusalem, known to history as the Leper King. At 13 years old, Baldwin inherited a throne embroiled in war, faith, and fragile alliances. Yet his greatest battle was against the enemy within his own body. Leprosy, a disease feared and misunderstood, would slowly ravage his flesh, deform his face, and strip away his senses. Still, Baldwin ruled with the mind and heart of a lion, his courage eclipsing his physical torment. But what does it mean to rule when your own body is your prison? What can a king teach us about dignity, identity, and courage when death is woven into his very skin? Today, we peeled back the gilded curtain of history to enter the shadows of a king whose armor was melting around him, a king whose legacy still challenges our ideas of strength and humanity.
To understand Baldwin, we must first understand the world that shaped him, a world where faith, power, and survival were bound by unbreakable chains, where the divine right to rule came with a cost that few could imagine. Baldwin was born in 1161 into a world ablaze with conflict and faith. The kingdom of Jerusalem stood precariously on the edge, a beacon for crusaders and a target for enemies alike. His father, Amalric I, was a seasoned warrior king, a man who balanced diplomacy with the sword. But Baldwin's destiny would be unlike any ruler before him. From the very beginning, Baldwin's body betrayed him. As a child, he showed signs that confused his doctors: wounds that wouldn't heal, numbness in his fingers, a lack of normal sensation. By age 9, the diagnosis was whispered in the shadows: leprosy. Leprosy was more than a disease. It was a sentence of social death. The afflicted were cast out, shunned, feared as living curses. The Church declared it a divine punishment, a mark of sin. For a king, the disease was a double-edged sword, an invisible enemy eating away at the flesh and the very legitimacy of his reign. Yet Baldwin did not retreat into despair.
He learned early that his strength must come not from flesh, but from spirit and mind. Tutored in Latin, theology, and strategy, he devoured knowledge like a man starving. His sharp intellect became his armor, his resolve a weapon sharper than any blade. He began to rule when he was still a boy, not merely as a figurehead, but as a sovereign whose decision shaped the fate of the Crusader states. His courtiers were torn between pity and awe. How could a boy with hands slowly wasting away command armies? How could a face marked by disease inspire loyalty? But Baldwin proved them wrong, time and again. This was a ruler who defied every expectation, a king whose body was rotting, but whose mind remained razor-sharp, whose spirit refused to bow. But the truth beneath the crown was brutal. Leprosy is a thief of sensation and movement. Baldwin's fingers curled, his limbs weakened, his face warped as the disease destroyed cartilage and skin. His vision dimmed. He wore heavy clothes to hide the deformities, but the whispers in the court never ceased. Behind closed doors, he fought not only external enemies, but the slow unraveling of his own body. His courtiers recorded his illness with clinical detachment, a royal patient under observation. But to Baldwin, each day was a battle to remain himself. The tragedy of Baldwin is a mirror held up to the fragility of power and life itself. He was a king bound by flesh that betrayed him, leading a kingdom surrounded by enemies. His reign was a testament to the paradox of mortal strength, that sometimes true power lies in perseverance against decay. Despite the steady erosion of his flesh, Baldwin IV's mind remained unbroken, and so did his will to fight. From the moment he took the throne, the kingdom of Jerusalem was surrounded by enemies. The Muslim leader Saladin was rising in power, determined to reclaim the Holy Land. The fragile alliances among the Crusader states teetered on the edge of collapse. Yet Baldwin, barely a man in years, stepped onto the battlefield with the courage of a seasoned general. His commanders whispered in disbelief. How could this pale, trembling boy lead a charge? How could the leper king inspire men to fight when his own body was ravaged by a disease? But Baldwin understood something deeper than physical strength. He understood the power of symbol and spirit. His presence alone galvanized troops. The sight of their king, who fought despite his condition, ignited their resolve. His strategy was sharp, his decisions decisive. He won battles that seemed impossible. At the Battle of Montgijard in 1177, Baldwin led a daring surprise attack against Saladin's forces, routing an army many times larger. It was a moment of hope for the Crusader states, a testament to what a determined spirit could achieve against all odds. Yet Baldwin's reign was not just about war. It was a constant struggle with his own body and the court that both revered and feared him. His leprosy was a visible sign of weakness in a culture that prized physical perfection in its rulers.
Some nobles plotted to use his illness as justification to limit his power or replace him. There were whispers of doubt, fear, even disgust. The very people sworn to serve their king sometimes saw him as a living reminder of human frailty. Baldwin's life was a paradox, a king who embodied strength and decay simultaneously. He was the embodiment of a kingdom hanging by a thread, glorious in ideal, but crumbling in reality. His disease, often hidden beneath rich robes and masks, was a metaphor for the fragile state of the Crusader kingdom itself, besieged, weakened, but refusing to fall without a fight. As Baldwin's body continued to fail, so too did his hold on power. He was forced to name a regent and arrange for his successor, the young Baldwin V, before his death at just 24 years old. Yet his legacy would outlast his physical form. Baldwin IV taught the world that leadership was not the domain of the unbroken and the strong alone. It was a mantle for those who could endure suffering with dignity, who could inspire even as their own flesh betrayed them. His story challenges us to rethink what it means to be strong.
Is strength the absence of weakness, or is it the courage to stand tall despite it?
Is power the might of the body, or the resilience of the spirit? Baldwin IV's story transcends the historical facts of battles and crowns. His life is a rich tapestry woven with symbolism. A man whose melting armor became a metaphor for the fragility of human power and identity. The king as paradox. He was both ruler and ruin, warrior and victim, sovereign and prisoner of his own body. This paradox challenges the classical image of kingship, the ideal of invincibility, divine right, and physical perfection. Baldwin's reign reminds us that power can coexist with vulnerability. His body, slowly consumed by disease, mirrors the decay of the Crusader states, held together by faith and resolve, yet corroded from within by political strife and external pressure. Psychological dimensions. The crown as burden. Imagine bearing the crown while your body betrays you daily. Baldwin's condition was not merely physical, it was psychological. The isolation imposed by leprosy, the awareness of his inevitable decline, the pressure to uphold a kingdom's hopes, all weighed heavily on his mind. Modern psychology might describe his experience as a profound existential crisis, grappling with mortality while carrying the weight of destiny. Myth and memory, the making of a legend.
Over time, Baldwin IV has been cast into the role of the tragic hero, a figure of noble suffering and heroic defiance. His story was told by chroniclers who admired his courage and by poets who saw in him a symbol of hope and tragedy. Yet myths can both illuminate and obscure. The leper king is remembered for his bravery, but how often do we acknowledge the pain, loneliness, and fear that shaped his every decision? Contemporary resonances. Armor we all wear. Today we may not face leprosy or medieval warfare, but Baldwin's story still speaks to us. We all carry invisible battles, illness, trauma, vulnerability, while trying to fulfill roles that demand strength. We wear our own armor, masks of confidence, resilience, sometimes denial, to face a world that prizes perfection. Leadership in any form still requires confronting the tension between human frailty and public expectation. Baldwin IV died young, just 24 years old. His body succumbed to the relentless decay of leprosy.
His kingdom, frail and embattled, would not survive long after. Yet the story of the leper king lives on, not as a tale of defeat, but as a profound lesson in the complexities of power, humanity, and resilience. What does it truly mean to be strong? Is strength the flawless armor worn by the mighty, or is it the courage to wear that armor while it slowly melts away? To face each day knowing your body's betraying you, yet refusing to surrender? What does it mean to lead? To lead is not simply to wield power unscathed, but to bear the weight of vulnerability with dignity and resolve. Baldwin IV's reign teaches us that leaders are not heroes because they are invincible, but because they are human. And what of legacy? Is a legacy measured by years lived or by the depth of courage shown in the face of inevitable decline? Baldwin's legacy is a paradox, a reminder that the greatest strength often lies not in physical might, but in the spirit's unyielding flame. As we close this chapter of history, let us reflect on the armor we each wear, be it visible or invisible. What burdens do we carry beneath the surface? What battles do we fight that remain unseen by the world? And if our armor were to melt away, would we still find the courage to stand? The Leper King's story is not confined to the annals of medieval crusades. It is a mirror held to every human soul, wrestling with the tension between frailty and fortitude. May we remember Baldwin IV not just as a king consumed by disease, but as a symbol of resilience, a testament to the indomitable human spirit that continues to inspire, challenge, and humble us across centuries. May his courage remind us to honor our own struggles and to recognize that true nobility lies in embracing our shared humanity, in sickness and in health, in weakness and in strength. What will your legacy be when your armor finally melts away? Baldwin IV is gone, but his story echoes through the ages, not as a legend of invincibility, but as a profound lesson on fragility and resilience. The spirit of the Leper King stands not only as a symbol of bodily decay, but as a testament to unyielding faith, that even in the weakest flesh one can preserve dignity and inner strength. His final day marked not just the end of a dynasty, but a reminder that, quote, "True strength does not lie in the outward glory, but in the ability to confront and transcend the deepest limits within ourselves. And when the armor melts away, what remains is one constant, the spirit of a king, burning bright and unextinguished." Let Baldwin IV's story be a mirror for us all, revealing that true power lives inside, unseen, but always deeply felt.